You are not flying to Paris. There is no business class. No air hostess handing you warm nuts in a ceramic bowl. Your office has no walls, no floor, and the ceiling is whatever the clouds decide to give you today. You are a bush pilot. And in about 4 minutes, you are going to fly a plane loaded with 800 pounds of anhydrous ammonia at 15 feet above a cornfield at 130 miles per hour. One wrong pull on the stick, and you become the most expensive fertilizer in the county. You were born in the small town in Nebraska, 1978. Your father fixed tractors for a living. Your mother ironed other people's shirts. The closest thing to aviation in your house was a broken ceiling fan and a dog-eared copy of National Geographic with a Cessna on the cover. You kept that magazine under your mattress like other kids kept comic books. You knew at age 9 that you were going to fly. You did not know at age 9 that flying would eventually mean dodging power lines at dawn with a chemical tank strapped to your belly and a wasp nest inside your cockpit. Details. You get your first lesson at 17. The instructor smells like cigarettes and disappointment. He spent 15 years flying cargo for a regional airline before the airline folded and left him here, teaching farm kids in a Piper Cherokee with a cracked instrument panel. He shows you one thing on day 1. He points at the altimeter and says, "This number is lying to you." You will spend the next 40 years learning how right he was. You solo at 18, alone in the aircraft for the first time. The tower clears you for takeoff, and you push the throttle forward, and the runway starts moving. And then it stops moving, because you are airborne. Nobody tells you about this moment in ground school. Your hands are shaking. The whole state of Nebraska is underneath you, and it is the most terrifying and beautiful thing that has ever happened to you, and you are laughing. Crying a little, laughing again. The instructor watches from the ground and lights another cigarette. He has seen this 800 times. He still watches every solo, every single one. You cannot afford flight school. Not the real kind. Not the kind with simulators and standardized curriculums and ATPL exams. You work at the local ag operation, the aerial application company on the edge of town. They spray crops. You sweep hangars, fuel aircraft, wash the chemical residue off the ag cat with a garden hose at 5 a.m. before the heat sets in. The pilots let you sit in the planes when they are parked. You memorize every switch, every gauge. One of the pilots, a man named Dale who lost 2 fingers to a propeller in 1994 and refuses to discuss it, starts letting you ride along on ferry flights. Dale does not talk much. Dale communicates entirely through grunts and the angle of his jaw. One afternoon he grunts in a way that means, "Your turn." You fly for 40 minutes. Dale sleeps in the right seat with his arms crossed. You have never felt more trusted in your life. Aerial application, that is the official name. Crop dusting is what everyone else calls it, and what no one in the industry calls it because it sounds like something from a 1940s cartoon. You are not dusting. You are flying an agricultural aircraft at 10 to 15 feet above the crop canopy, dispensing chemical at a precise rate measured in gallons per acre, while managing engine torque, GPS guidance, obstacle avoidance, and the fact that a red-tailed hawk just appeared directly in your windscreen with no advance notice. The hawk brakes left. You brake right. Everything is fine. This is Tuesday. The aircraft. Let us talk about the aircraft. You are flying an Air Tractor 402, single-engine turboprop, 680 horsepower. It can carry 400 gallons of liquid chemical in the hopper. That is over 3,000 pounds of payload on an aircraft that weighs 4,000 pounds empty. When the hopper is full, you fly like a drunk man carrying a piano up a staircase. When it empties, you fly like something that actually wants to be in the air. You will make between 20 and 40 passes over the same field in a single session. Each pass at 130 miles per hour. Each pass ending in a 180-degree turn at the field edge where the power lines are, the trees are, the irrigation pivot is. There is a statistic in aerial application that nobody in the industry likes to say out loud. But there it is, sitting in the corner of every safety briefing like an uninvited relative. More agricultural pilots die per flight hour than almost any other category of aviation. You know this. You got into the plane anyway. So did every other ag pilot on Earth. There is something wrong with all of you in the best possible way. Your day starts at 4 a.m. This is not a lifestyle choice. This is chemistry. Heat causes chemicals to volatilize, to drift off target, damage neighboring crops, cause regulatory headaches that take 3 years to resolve. The only way to avoid that is to fly in the cool air before the temperature climbs and the wind picks up. You are in the air before sunrise. The fields are gray and flat. There is dew on the windscreen. The GPS display casts a green light on your face. You are absolutely alone out here, and it is perfect. By 10 a.m., the wind is 12 knots and you land. Done for the day. You sleep for 4 hours, eat something terrible from a gas station, and do it again tomorrow. But there is a version of this job that makes crop dusting look like a Sunday drive. And we need to talk about it now. Though I will get back to what happens to your hands after 10 years of this. Stay with me. The version I mean is bush flying. Alaska, northern Canada, the Australian outback. These are places where roads end and rivers become the roads, and the only connection between a remote village and the rest of the human race is a single-engine aircraft and a pilot who knows the terrain well enough to read it like a face. You will become one of those pilots. Eventually. But first, you have to survive the getting there. You build your hours the slow way, the honest way. Weekend charters, pipeline patrol, aerial survey work. You fly a camera plane in a grid pattern over construction sites for $6 a photo. You do a winter flying caribou count in Montana for the Wildlife Service. You land on a gravel bar in a river. Twice. On purpose. The third time is less on purpose, but you walk away. The aircraft does not technically walk away, but it flies again after a week and some aluminum tape and a conversation with your mechanic that you would prefer not to repeat. The medical certificate. Every 6 months. A doctor looks at your heart, your eyes, your blood pressure, your inner ear. If any of it fails, you are done. Not suspended, done. You know a pilot, a good one, 22 years in the air, 0 incidents, who lost his medical to a retinal issue he did not know he had. He found out on a Tuesday. He never flew again as a professional. He now drives a school bus. He is fine. He says he's fine. He looks fine. You do not ask follow-up questions. Alaska. You get the Alaska job at 34. A small operator out of Talkeetna, 2 Cessna 185s and a Beaver on floats, running cargo and passengers to remote lodges and mining camps, and the occasional geologist who needs to get to a ridge that has no name on any map. You fly the Beaver first, the de Havilland Beaver, made in 1956. Your grandmother was born before this airplane. The engine is a Pratt & Whitney R985, a radial engine, 9 cylinders arranged in a circle, and when it starts, it shakes and coughs and fills the cockpit with the smell of hot oil and something ancient and mechanical and correct. This engine was designed when people wore hats. It is still flying. You love this airplane the way some men love a good dog, completely and without embarrassment. The terrain. This is what nobody tells you about Alaska flying until you are already there and it is too late to reconsider. The terrain is alive. The mountains make their own weather. A pass that was clear 30 minutes ago is now a white wall of nothing. You have 3 options: turn back, fly under it, or climb over it. Turning back is the smart choice. It is also the choice that feels like surrender, and you have to make it anyway, over and over, for years, until you stop feeling like it is surrender and start feeling like it is just intelligence. The pilots who do not learn this lesson do not fly very long. There is a saying in Alaska aviation: there are old pilots and bold pilots. There are no old, bold pilots. You tape this to the dashboard and look at it every morning and try to believe it. The cargo. You carry everything. Groceries, propane tanks, snow machine parts, a chest freezer, someone's elderly mother who needs to get to Anchorage for a hip replacement, a hunting guide, and 4 clients who are already arguing about the tent situation before you close the door. Fresh salmon packed in ice. A dog named Gerald who bites. Always Gerald in the back of the Beaver. Always on your most turbulent day. Always during a crossing that requires your full attention. Always producing a sound in the back of the aircraft that you choose not to investigate until you land. Gerald is the worst passenger you have ever had. Gerald is also always extremely happy to see you. You hate this. The lakes. Alaska has 3 million lakes. More lakes than the rest of the United States combined. On floats, you can land anywhere there is water and enough of a surface run. Except when there is not enough. You learn to read water from the air. The surface texture tells you the wind, the color tells you the depth, the ripple pattern tells you whether you are about to hit a submerged log or not. Usually. There is a small scar on your chin from the time the answer was not. The float clipped something. The aircraft nosed forward. You taxied to shore, got out, looked at the damage, and said a word that Gerald repeated for 2 weeks afterward to the great amusement of the client. Weather. The job is entirely weather. You are not flying airplanes, really. You are negotiating with weather systems. Everything else is just the paperwork. You learn to read clouds the way a farmer reads soil. A lenticular cloud over a mountain peak means severe turbulence in the lee. Fog that hugs the ground means radiation fog. It will burn off by 10 a.m. Fog that comes in from the coast is a different story entirely. Coastal fog does not burn off. It thickens. It fills the valleys. It erases the world. You learn which rivers you can follow under overcast and which ones end in a box canyon that will kill you if you commit to them. You learn this by flying them, carefully, slowly, with every exit memorized before you need it. The money. Let us be honest. You are not doing this for the money. An entry-level ag pilot makes somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 a year. A bush pilot with 5 years of Alaska experience might clear $60,000. For comparison, the kid who delivers your groceries is making $18 an hour, and he goes home at the end of his shift without checking the weather first. You are not bitter about this. You are a little bit bitter about this. Not enough to stop. Never enough to stop. The season. Crop season runs from late spring to early fall. You fly every flyable day. You do not take weekends. Weekends are a concept for people who work inside. A flyable day with a full schedule means 10 to 12 hours of actual aircraft operation. You land, refuel the hopper, take off again. Land, refuel, take off. Over and over. Your lunch is a granola bar eaten with one hand while holding altitude with the other. Your back hurts. It has hurt since 2009, and you have stopped expecting it to stop. The vibration of the turboprop at cruise power resonates at a frequency that does something specific and terrible to the human lumbar spine. Every ag pilot you know has the same back. You compare x-rays the way other people compare vacation photos. And here's what happens to your hands after 10 years of this. The left hand, your throttle hand, develops a callus at the base of the thumb from gripping the power lever through every pass. The right hand, the stick hand, develops a faint tremor at rest. Not dangerous, not pathological. Your neurologist says it is occupational. Years of high-frequency vibration feeding back through the control stick into the tendons. You notice it most at dinner. When you reach for a glass of water, the water moves slightly. Your wife noticed it before you did. She said nothing for 6 months. When she finally said something, it was not what you expected. She said, "I notice it. I watch it every night. I think it is the most honest thing about you." You did not know what to do with that, so you cried a little and then refueled the hopper. The near misses. Every pilot has them. Nobody talks about them loudly.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
You talk about them quietly, with other pilots, at the end of the day, with something in a paper cup. The power line you saw at the last second on a dawn run. The engine that coughed once at 50 feet AGL and then decided to keep running, a decision you were grateful for and have never fully trusted since. The afternoon you flew into what the weather briefing called light mist and what turned out to be a wall of precipitation that dropped visibility to 0 in 4 seconds. You were visual. Then you were not. You executed a 180-degree turn entirely by the seat of your pants and the grace of whatever watches over people who make questionable career choices. You came out the other side. You landed. You sat in the aircraft for a while. Gerald was not in the plane that day. Gerald missed his best opportunity. The village runs. This is the part that makes everything else make sense. The remote villages in Alaska, Lime Village, Stony River, Sleet Mute, villages that are not on maps that most people have ever looked at. They have no road access. In winter, the river freezes and the snow machines come out. In spring breakup, the river ice is impassable. For 3 or 4 weeks every year, the only way in or out is by air. You fly supplies. You fly sick people to medical care. You fly the mail. Once, you flew a woman in active labor 140 miles to Anchorage. She named the baby after a town she saw out the window. The town was called Talkeetna. The baby is 12 years old now. You see her occasionally when you are in Anchorage. She is not interested in flying. She wants to be a marine biologist. You think this is a very reasonable decision? The retirement question. People ask when you are going to retire. You do not know how to answer this question. Flying is not what you do. It is the shape your life has taken. It is the thing that makes the morning make sense. You are 51 years old. Your medical certificate is current. Your logbook has 11,000 hours in it, which sounds like a lot until you meet the men who have 25. The chief pilot at the company, a man named Pete who came to Alaska in 1983 and has never left, has 31,000 hours. He flies every day. He will fly until the FAA takes his medical, and then, probably, on weekends as a sport pilot, which has different medical requirements. Pete is not doing anything else. Pete is not built for anything else. You understand Pete completely. The last flight of the day, every day. You come in from the final run and the light is going gold and flat across the fields or across the water, depending on which version of this life you are currently living. You cut the engine. The propeller slows and stops. The cockpit fills with silence the way a room fills when someone finally stops talking. You sit for a moment. You do not check your phone. You look at what is in front of you. Mountains, or corn, or a lake going orange in the last of the light. Nobody is here but you. Nobody knows this version of the world exists except the people who come here to see it. You are one of those people. You chose this. Every morning you choose it again. Most jobs you fall into. This one you climb into. Literally, with a step up on the float or the wheel strut. And you cannot imagine any other version of your life that would have felt this real. There are 11,000 hours in your logbook. Every single one of them was on purpose. You were a bush pilot, a crop duster, a freight hauler, a medevac, a mail run, a wildlife survey, a lifeline between a village of 80 people and the rest of the planet. You fly machines held together by rivets and aluminum and stubbornness and the kind of knowledge that cannot be taught in a classroom. You land on lakes no one has mapped and fields no one has named and gravel bars that exist for 4 months a year before the river takes them back. You are not famous. Nobody makes movies about you. The airlines take the credit and the salaries and the layover hotels in Miami. You take the fog and the turbulence and the hawk in the windscreen and the 4 a.m. alarm and Gerald. You take all of it. And tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off and the weather is marginal and every sensible person is still asleep, you will check the forecast, look at the sky, make your call, and climb in. Because this is your whole life, and there is not a single hour of it you would trade. Next episode, you are a smoke jumper. You parachute into active wildfires in the Rocky Mountains with a chainsaw and 30 pounds of gear, and the objective of building a fire line before the fire builds it for you. Subscribe to Eyes of the Warrior. We show history and the lives that made it without the filter.